Let me show you how I made the short film. To create a massive piece like this by yourself, planning is the most important thing you can do, starting with the idea. I watch a lot of anime and movies, and I've always wanted to do something big, so I started thinking, what if I had a fight between these two characters? I really like their designs, I think they're very cool. One could be your typical ninja with a throwing kunai and some jutsu, while the other could be more of a jack of all trades. She pulls out any weapon from her bag like it's a pocket dimension and uses it like a pro. But then I thought, why are they fighting? Maybe over a treasure? Where did that treasure come from? A cave maybe? I basically worked my way backwards from the fight until I got to the Indiana Jones style treasure heist, with the ninja swooping in to snatch it from her after she exits the cave. I even animated some deleted scenes for that. Now that I had the idea, it was time to plan. I had a lot of shots floating around in my head, stuff from Indiana Jones, Vox Machina, Mushoku Tensei, you get the idea. I had set pieces in mind, but the challenge was making them all fit into the world and the character that I'm creating. Speaking of character, I needed to give her some personality. One of the fun parts about animating is bringing a character to life. I wanted her to be fun, clumsy but competent. She jokes around and doesn't take things too seriously, but when things get intense, she'd lock in. So then the question became, how would she specifically steal this artifact? The first step was storyboarding. I usually don't storyboard, mostly because I can't draw to save my life, but I wanted to try this. And yeah, it wasn't looking great, but it's a start. Eventually I scrapped that and went with what I know, previs with primitives. This is one of the most important steps for me when working on the big shot. It's a relatively fast way to get ideas out without committing too much. And if you're wondering why I didn't use the actual character model, it's because I wanted it to be rough. Things change constantly. And as you can see, the previs looks very different from the final product, especially the first half when she's trying to get the treasure. I had to change a lot. The pacing was bad. It felt like a knockoff Indiana Jones, so I started rethinking things. Originally, she escapes while dodging rocks, but that got old fast. She runs, she dodges rocks, she runs again, dodges another rock. Nothing really changed for like 30 seconds, so I added some chaos, some dynamic element to it. What if she keeps losing the treasure? She's got this magical bottomless bag, but for some reason, the treasure just keeps falling out. Like the cave itself doesn't want her to leave with it. So now she's escaping and chasing the treasure while the cave tries to crush her. That change made a huge difference. Before we move on to the blocking phase, I want to talk about the inspiration for the style of the film. If it isn't obvious already, Spider-Verse was a huge influence. Their way of animating characters on 2s or 3s while keeping the cameras on 1s is so appealing when done right in 3D. I studied those films and ran a bunch of tests. Now, if you just animate on 2s and leave your characters in step mode, this is what it'll look like. To fix that, you need to put your character in camera space. That way, even when they're not moving, they still stay relative to the camera. I'll link some videos in the description that explain it better. But just animating on 2s isn't enough. It can still look like rough blocking if the timing and spacing aren't appealing. That's where the second big influence came in, the bad guys. Their animation style has amazing timing. Like the characters will move huge distance in just one frame, and it didn't feel poppy or jarring. A good example is when a character throws a punch, you get the wind up and then you get the recoil, but they skip the impact frame. It still reads because our brain fills in the gap. That approach combined with characters on 2s make for a super stylized, snappy look. This is where you actually bring the ideas to life. I ended up tossing most of my previs and starting fresh, but I kept the core and structure. Why? Because I wasn't really happy with how the previs turned out, and I didn't want to get locked into those early decisions, unless it was for specific shots like the big one. We'll talk about that later. For example, the giant hand on the altar, gone. Instead of doing the classic Indiana Jones weight swap gag, my character imagines she's hitting a home run in a baseball game. That one small idea helps spark a bunch of other choices. I like animating things in order, so I started blocking from the beginning. In the previs, she crashes through the ceiling in 2 shots. In blocking, I simplified it. She just drops in with rubble, more efficient. Same thing later. In the previs, she triggers the trap earlier, but in the blocking, I pushed it to after she grabs the treasure. Better pacing. Originally, she ran out with an explosion behind her, but feedback from friends made me rethink it. They said it undermined the tension that was built up to that moment, so I slowed it down, made it feel like the calm after the storm. I shot tons of reference and pulled even more from movies and YouTube videos. Some people like shooting everything ahead of time and edit it like a live action movie before animating while using it as reference. I didn't do that for this. I shot reference in chunks and one scene at a time as I worked on it. In blocking, I try to include as much details, as much information as possible. It makes polishing way easier. I left out details like cloth, the bag when not in use. I could always add those in polish. Shots on 2s were animated at 12 FPS. You can do this at 24, it doesn't really matter, but animating in 12 forced me to focus on strong poses and snappy timing. Once I was happy with the shot, I'd bake it down and switch the scene to 24 FPS and convert it to step mode. It ends up looking the same, but the workflow helps me get in that animating on 2's mindset. Now let's talk camera work. When people say they really like my camera work, they're usually talking about the one continuous shot with the explosions and falling rocks. And yeah, that was impressive, I agree. But honestly, I am more proud of the other less complicated shots in the film, because those shots are the building blocks of a movie. Some principles I kept in mind are eye tracing, which is directing the viewer's focus where I want it, and secondly, following the flow of the action. Like if the artifact rolls right to left in one shot, the next shot it keeps moving in that same direction. Simple premise, she needs to get from point A to point B alive with the artifact. But how? I wanted the cave to feel alive, like it's actively trying to stop her. That's why rocks fall right in front of her, and the artifact keeps slipping away. I spent the most time previous in this sequence. Unlike the other shots where rough ideas were enough, this one had to be clear from the start. Things like the shot of the crack in the ceiling or the slide under fallen debris, they all had to be planned out. To manage it, I put the character on the treadmill, which means the environment moves instead of the character. The character and its relationship to the camera played an important role here, because there were a lot of cheats going on in perspective view. Doing it this way helped me manage the data on the keys I was setting. She covers such a huge distance and she's constantly bouncing around while moving forward. If I were to make any changes, like slow things down, which I did a lot, it'll take longer to get it looking right. But doing it this way, if I wanted to slow a sequence down, I'll just slow down the translation on the environment, and the way the camera is angled, the audience can't tell. Now I ended up transferring all that translation data back onto the character after blocking, but doing it this way made things easier. I animated the whole thing on ones. It's supposed to act as a contrast to her other sequence when she's on 2s, because now she's doing more crazy stuff like doing flips, dodging all these rocks, so she's more in the zone here. Originally, she left the frame and the camera caught up later in the sequence, but that made the camera feel alive, like it had a mind of its own. I didn't like that, so instead I kept the camera locked on her as she got blasted upwards. Typically, you want your camera to always have a subject, and if I'm being honest, a lot of these decisions came spontaneously. I'd block out a whole section, realize it doesn't work, and delete days of work. Not ideal for production, but hey. For the final treasure catch, originally she just grabs it at the end of the slope. I felt it was a bit too tame. I remember I was showing this to some of my buddies, and one of them suggested why not use the bag to catch the artifact. My mind was blown. That one suggestion led to this moment where she uses her leg to slingshot the bag, catch the artifact mid-air, spin it close, and drop. It's one of my favorite shots. Show your work to people often. You can get really cool ideas from that. As for the camera, it's not actually doing anything crazy. It just follows the bag, then the artifact, then the character again. The character is doing all the work. The camera is just tracking it. And that's generally what your camera should be doing at all times. You want your camera to be chill and let your character shine. Around this point, I had other people jump in to help me in the other departments, like the 2D effects, which is amazing. The sound design, the voice acting, they did a really good job. The lighting, which is still in progress. So shout out to my friend Anthony, who saved my project files from chaos. Like, he opened my Maya file and saw the mess and immediately organized it into shot folders, like in an actual production. It was really good. Now when I polish, I'm mostly focused on the motion of the hair and the clothes. I'm cleaning up the arcs, I'm smoothing out the camera, making sure the character and the camera, they're not hitting any invisible walls. I'm adding smear frames and multiples, which is very fun, and I'm animating so many rocks. There's not much to say about polishing. Like I said, the more information you put in your blocking pass, the easier it is to just clean up that pass and polish. Adding a little bit of flair here and there, but it's mostly ideas stay locked. The big destruction shot was simulated in Houdini because I can't animate all that. Here are some of the deleted scenes. I originally wanted to end on a cliffhanger with a glimpse at the ninja fight, but it messed up with the pacing and it was just too much work, so I left it out. Not sure if I'll continue this story, but I want to do some more cool fights, so maybe, who knows. Overall, I had a blast working on this massive project. It's the biggest thing I've ever done, and it taught me a ton about animation and filmmaking. It took me about a year from start to finish while working full-time, lots of long nights. I hope to make even crazier stuff in the future, so stay tuned. Thanks for watching.